Today we're going to talk about balayage. There's many different forms, and today the form that we're going to be using is a baby light technique. Balayage is an effect, so at the end of the day we're going to have depth in on the roots, and it's going to be lighter and brighter towards the end. This client in particular likes a soft, blended, easy to grow out effect. So what I've gone in and started to do is baby lights first, and then I tease it, and I'm using a lightener with a 30 volume. And if you notice, the baby lights are finely woven, so that gives it more of a blended effect. And some areas of her head she has virgin hair, and some areas previously highlighted hair. So I place the lightener in on the roots, but when I'm placing the lightener on the roots, I do it very lightly where I'm brushing it on the tops of the hair. And as I go down the strands, I saturate it more towards the ends. So the ends are where we're going to get lighter and brighter, so it makes sense to lightly dust the lightener in on the top of the hair and then get a little heavier with the lightener as you make your way down the mid shaft to the ends. And when you're in the ends, you want to fully saturate. So you're going to see I turn my brush sideways and use the corner of it as almost as if it's like the tip of a pencil, so that I can blend the area that has the dark hair into the area that's already light. And in this particular situation, time and time again, you're going to see me flip the ends out because the ends are already lightened. So we're not going to add more lightener onto hair that's already light. What I do is add a bond builder, which actually keeps the hair strengthened through the lightening process. So if you think of the hair as something like shaped like a ladder, and there's the rungs of the ladder as you go up, that's the inside of the hair, and those are the bonds. It's really important in the lightening process not to break those down, because that jeopardizes the integrity of the hair and causes it to be very fragile and break. So what we've done is taken a few sections down the center and around the face. So this is going to be face framing, and it's a technique at the time that's called money piece. We are finally weaving. As I've gotten into the side, I did diagonal parting, but on the top and the side, you'll see I tease on the top and sometimes on the bottom, but I do it once or twice. And when I'm on the side, I get closer to the hairline around the face, and I start stepping down like a step ladder where it's staying a little darker towards the back. So it's lighter, brighter around the face. And then as I'm placing the lightener on the roots, I kind of step down, so that it gives the effect of what the sun would do naturally to the hair. Naturally, your face gets a lot lighter, and the back has a tendency to stay with more depth. So I did a diagonal parting. If you notice, I'm finely weaving. And around the face, it's so fine that you didn't see me teasing. So the teasing effect makes it more blended, and when you tease, you're pushing hair, and the hair's it's already like a bunch of different lengths at that point. So when you're placing the lightener, it lightens it uneven where you won't have this really dark demarcation of the roots next to really light, bright ends. It does it more of a gradual blended effect. So I continue to repeat each step, and now I'm in the back left section. I am also doing diagonal parting. I start at the hairline and work my way up. And if you notice, the placement of my brush gets turned sideways if there's brown hair sitting next to blonde hair, because there's no reason to get lightener on hair that's already lightened. There are some areas where she hasn't been touched with lightener, and today the effect was to get it a little lighter, brighter underneath, because it's not my favorite look where the top's really light and the bottom's really dark. I like to have a little lightener around the nape of the neck because that hair lives around the face and the chin and the neck area. So when her hair is down or even pulled back, you still see where it blends from the back to the front. I like it to flow. I don't like two tones where it's bright light and then it's really dark in the back. So this kind of gives it more of a blended effect. So now we're in the right corner, and again, diagonal parting. I'm doing 1, 2 to 3 T's back combing. So it's a cheesy highlight balayage effect. So I consistently repeat the same thing. Around the hairline, when it comes to around the face and the nape of the neck, you will not see me teasing. I just do very, very fine little pieces because around those areas, it's already fine hair as it is. And if you see the foil, it's great laying the hair out on it because you can see where the lightener's on it and where it's not lightened. And you can lightly brush the hair in on the roots, the lightener in on the hair at the roots, and heavily saturate with the lightener down at the ends so that it has a point of light where you've got depth in on the roots and light right to the ends. So this is a repetitive step, but I consistently do it throughout the entire head. So after this, what we do is we create an effect called color melt, where it's the same. It ties in with the balayage with the color melt effect. It goes from really rich and dark to really light and bright. So when you're making hair lighter, it usually means it's going to be brighter. When you're making hair darker, it usually means that it's going to be richer. A lot of times when I'm doing these balayage techniques or a teasy baby light or anything to do with color melt, I have a tendency to put in some scattered low lights to put depth back in on their ends after having a long summer. Now, as I'm working my way up the head, I'm taking bigger pieces. Those are no longer baby lights as I get to the crown. But the key is I'm not going very close to the crown. I'm stepping away, further away from the head when it comes to the lighteners in the back of the head. I do not personally like seeing the back of people's head with light highlights and it looking like racing stripes. I feel like in that area there's a lot of calyx, the hair opens up, and you want to be really mindful of having more of a blended, non-racing stripe type of technique. So you're going to see I do different things as I work my way around the head. I use a little heat. I never use a dryer because a dryer will dry out the lightener if it gets through the foil, or if a foil's not quite closed all the way, it will cause it to dry out the lightener. When the lightener gets dry, it no longer does its job. So in her case, I didn't need to do low lights because she has a lot of virgin natural brown hair, but I am going to lightly shampoo. We will be putting on the second step for Olaplex. That's the bond builder that we put in the lightener so it doesn't break the hair down and ruin the bonds in the hair, which causes the hair to get fragile and break. So my goal is to create healthy, beautiful, shiny hair. I'm not in the business of damaging hair. So at this point, I go in and use a darker color in on her roots at the crown. I massage it through and I tap it around the hairline. It's called a root tap. And you literally see me tapping right at the roots. I stay very close to the head and the scalp around the hairline, and I drag it down and away in the back of the crown. So what you're seeing me do here is with a lighter formula. It's 2 levels lighter than what I used on her crown at the root. So if I used a 7 or 8 level on her roots, that means I used a 9 or 10 on her ends. And this is how you create a beautiful color melt where it goes from brown to a lighter blonde on the ends. I like to thoroughly towel dry even the back of the hair. Everyone has a tendency to dry the front of the hair and not get the back, and especially the back at the roots. And I work it all the way through, and I use a wide tooth comb and I massage it through gently. and let it sit for 20 minutes. And what I did use is Shades EQ Gloss. The formula is not known at this time, but I do know I use a 7-8 level on the roots and I use a 9-10 on the ends. We can give you the formula to this particular client at the end of the video. As you see, when I go in and dry it, it gives her a highlighted, beautiful, sunshine colored hair where you see contrast, you see depth, and you see brightness, but mainly it's light bright around the face, and that's what she wanted. And so at the end of the day, it's what the client wants. So you want to have a toolbox of techniques, not be able just to do one technique, but have multiple techniques. And sometimes I do multiple techniques on one head of hair. So we've got a money piece around the front, we got piecier pieces on the crown, and all around the hairline, it's more baby light effect, where the crown is a little piecier. So you can see it adds texture, shine, and a beautiful tone.